TNA Wrestling across the line again with a special 20th anniversary Impact Wrestling show. Congratulations for TNA for the 20th anniversary. Here's to another 20. Now, we talk about hard-hitting contests on TNA, and there was no question that the first match definitely had that this week. It was Jake something versus Con. Now, we've known Con, he's had Monsters Balls matches. He's been going crazy with PCO recently, but this week he was going one-on-one with Jake something in a match that was hard hitting. There was so much going on. A really, really good opening to start the 20th year anniversary show of TNA, in which Jake something picks up the victory with Into the Void, and he goes on and wins. We are just a week away, by the way, from Against All Odds this time next Friday. And don't forget now, TNA Impact is available on TNA Plus every Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, I believe, 1 a.m. over here in the UK. But going back to the Con match versus Jake something, at the end of that match, after Jake something picked up the win, Con starts attacking something after the match, but Eric Young makes a save, and he said he was in the back celebrating something special and decided he wanted to come out and be with the people. And he started reflecting on the 20 years of Impact Wrestling and said the fans are the lifeblood and make the company, which you 100% agree with that. The fans that have been with TNA through everything over the last 20 years have played a vital part in the and now the growth and the return of the company back to its former glory days. And like we said, here's to the next 20 years, TNA. Now, interestingly enough, now Frankie Kazarian has Nic Nemeth later on in the evening. Now, he was backstage at this talking, and he was interrupted by none other than the system. You know, they say that they know how to play the game. And Brian Myers, in particular, was trying to play a little bit of a game with Frankie Kazarian and trying to get him to form a little bit of maybe an unholy alliance with the system, shall we say. You know, and Frankie Kazarian says, don't worry, I will eliminate Nic Nemeth tonight. But when I do, I want a title shot at Moose. And Moose, actually, to be fair, obliges to that and grants that wish. So, should Kazarian eliminate Nic Nemeth later on Impact, he will be next in line, presuming, or assuming, shall we say, that Moose is successful against Matt Hardy, which Kazarian does bring up. And Moose basically says Hardy's not even here tonight after taking him out last week. So, wow, it seems as though Frankie Kazarian could well be on the way of getting a title shot, but he does have to eliminate the most wanted man in wrestling, Nic Nemeth, to get that shot. We'll have to see if he does do that. But it'd be a very good match that we're going to witness later on in TNA, and we'll get into that very, very shortly. But speaking of conflicted and speaking of women and crushes, we go to Steph DeLanda, and she believes that PCO might have a crush on her. I mean, I don't know what would give that away. You know, maybe the rose, maybe the poem that she's got, you know, that he gave to her over the last few weeks. PCO's like ever since 2 or 3 weeks now, PCO has really been attaching himself to Steph DeLanda. And she says she doesn't even know PCO, you know, she doesn't even know him. She barely knows it. But Zaya Brookside then interrupts the thing. And basically, he said it was so sweet. And DeLanda was like, it's insane. But, you know, it was insanely sweet in the end, Zaya Brookside, Steph DeLanda. And she said, look, to take her time before she makes a decision on PCO. And Steph DeLanda did actually say at this point that she would give it a week So Gia Miller, who was also backstage, was playing onto it as well as Zaya Brookside. But Steph Nalanda has said that she would give it a week before deciding what to do with PCO. Now, that means the impact before Against All Odds, we should find out what is going on with Steph Nalanda and PCO. So we'd have to tune in next week to Impact to find out what happens between Nalanda and PCO. Now, talking of the Knockouts division, we had an in-ring return this week of Giselle Shaw against Shazza McKenzie. Really good return match this for Giselle Shaw. Last few weeks, Gail Kim has been telling her, you've got to get back to being you. You don't need your entourage. You're Giselle Shaw. You're one of the best knockouts in the division. Go out there and show it. And the match with Shazza McKenzie was a perfect example as to why Giselle Shaw is one of the best knockouts on the roster. She did win with like a V-trigger knee strike move to win the match against Shazza McKenzie. And Giselle Shaw returns to Impact Wrestling with a very impressive victory. Does she have her sights set on Jordynne Grace, who will be defending her title a little bit later on? And obviously, Jordynne Grace has got a few bits and pieces going on herself. She is just about to take on Roxanne Perez for the NXT Women's Championship. And next week, at Against All Odds, she has an open challenge. And I think we may be seeing a crossover from NXT perhaps answering that open challenge for Jordynne Grace next week Against All Odds. But she has to get there. She has to be Knockouts champion first and right. And in a minute, we'll find out if she makes it to there. But then she's got this weekend coming up against Roxanne Perez at Battleground for the NXT Women's Championship, and a relationship seeming to be forged between WWE and TNA. We talk about forbidden doors. This is very exciting times for TNA and WWE. If that forbidden door opens more fuller, we could be seeing some dream matches down the line. We've obviously got Bound for Glory, Slammiversary. Perhaps, we can see a couple on the NXT shows, but you does get that mind and your fantasy booking inside you, and we all try and get our creative juices flowing, right? You can just imagine what we could potentially be getting on these crossovers should they continue. We don't know if they are going to continue after this Jordynne Grace, and she was victorious this week on NXT, but you cannot write off Giselle Shaw, a very impressive start to her return back to TNA and doing it on her own as well, which is the main thing, which is what Gail Kim's advice actually was. Talking of knockouts, there is a dark shadow being cast over TNA at the moment, and that dark shadow is Rosemary. And what is going on with Rosemary on TNA TV? It is interesting to see. I mean, we've had a lot of these kind of spooky promos. Not necessarily a spooky one with Gresham, but we know what's going on there with the black ink and everything else. And Rosemary has always been out there, shall we say. And yeah, we're interesting to see what she's going to be doing on TNA. But she's definitely casting a dark shadow over Impact Wrestling. And I will just wonder who Rosemary will be targeting. It's a very strong knockouts division that we've got on TNA right now. And who's her target going to be? And when is she going to strike? We'll just have to keep watching Impact as it rolls on to find out who she is going to be targeting amongst her return. Now, we did have a bit more of a backstage. Now, if you remember, Macklin and Santana was having a match last week that Rascals interrupted. And, well, it seems as though Against All Odds, Macklin was proposing a tag team match with him and Santana versus the Rascals. Now, Santana is very much a case of he's no longer a tag team wrestler. He's been there. He's done that. He's won the titles. He's split up from his partners in the past. He doesn't want anything to do with tag team wrestling, which you can understand. He is a great, great singles competitor, and he's also done it. Why would he want to do it? Well, he didn't want to do it. He's not a tag team wrestler anymore. But Macklin was like, look, this is just a one and done match. Tag team, once we've done this, we can go our separate ways, but we need to take out the Rascals. And reluctantly, Santana agreed to team with Macklin. I mean, that tag team alone right there just would send shivers through a lot of the TNA roster. I'm not quite sure the Rascals know what they're getting themselves into. Going against two heavy hitters like Macklin and Santana. I saw Santana a week or two ago at Progress Wrestling at the Super Strong Style event, and my word, I mean, if you didn't know about him, you certainly did after that. He was an incredible striker, and he's got a great ethic about him in the ring. So him and Macklin together, I'm hoping it's not just a one and done, to be honest with you. I want to see more of Macklin and Santana together, just without even them teaming. Just the thought of Macklin and Santana together is exactly what I want to be seeing in the future. Talking of tag team wrestling, that brings us on to Speedball Mountain. Now, this week, they go against Mustafa Ali and Campaign Singh. Campaign Singh's been getting involved in Mustafa Ali's business over the last few weeks as he's trying to weasel his, well, not weasel it, he's keeping the championship, obviously, the X Division championship. And you know, he's obviously got to remember that he's going against Trent Seven against all odds for that X Division championship next Friday on the TNA Plus app. And you've got to wonder, you know, if this match would play into anything psychologically if you do win, if the challenger, you know, regardless of whether, you know, Ali gets pinned or not, whether that just psychologically puts a bit of doubt in Ali's mind. And Speedball Mountain did just that because Trent Seven hits Campaign Singh with the burning hammer to pick up the victory. Like I said, he didn't pin Ali, but he did win the match for his team. It was actually a really good tag team match, to be honest with you. What you would come to expect from, you know, the four people in the ring at Speedball Mountain just keep getting better and better and better as a team. I like that team. It's a real one that I didn't know that I would like or didn't think that I would like, but I actually do. I thought there maybe there'd been more of an ulterior motive from Trent because he has a habit of turning on partners, does Trent. But so far, he has come in and him and Speedball Bailey have knocked it out of the park. But the X Division Championship awaits next week against all odds for Trent Seven. And has the shade of doubt been cast into the mind of Mustafa Ali? Well, we'll have to wait and see because it's only a week away next Friday, like I've already mentioned, on the TNA Plus app. Now, Jordynne Grace against Allysin Kay was next. Now, if you remember, Allysin Kay last week attacked Jordynne Grace after her match. But this one was also interesting by who was at ringside for this. And Ash by Elegance made her return from life-changing minor surgery or something along those lines. The concierge come out. It was hilarious when he was talking about that. And she come out on stage and watch this match. Now, obviously, Allysin Kay was with Marti Belle as well in this. But Jordynne Grace picks up another very impressive victory with the Juggernaut driver. And, you know, Allysin Kay is no slouch in terms of look, you know. To Jordynne Grace to do the Juggernaut driver on Allysin Kay wasn't exactly, you know, well, it was no mean feat, put it that way. And Jordynne Grace continues to impress. Like we said earlier on, she takes on Roxanne Perez this Saturday at Battleground and NXT. And good luck to Jordynne Grace. I would love it if you picked up the victory and took the NXT championship with you, not only to Impact, but to Against All Odds, where we now know, because she's retained her championship, that she has an open challenge match next week at Against All Odds. Now, if you watched NXT this week, you saw Taxon Paisley kind of stake the claim a little bit for that Knockouts Championship. And it'll be, is it going to be Paisley that steps up? You know, you even look at people in NXT that have been down there. Like, wouldn't it be great? And I know the contract situation. I don't know the contract situation, but someone like Natalya stepping into TNA next weekend to take on Jordynne Grace for the Knockouts Championship. What about that potentially? We said about, you know, the fantasy booking and the creative juices flowing. What if Natalya turns up at TNA next weekend and goes against the juggernaut for the Knockouts Championship, who could also be the TNA Women's Champion, the X Division, the NXT Women's Champion by next weekend. It will be incredible by next Friday against all odds. There was Sami Callihan was next, and he was talking about, he was on Death Machine TV. And Sami Callihan is probably the only man that's not afraid of Jonathan Gresham. I want to see that again. I think Callihan and Gresham would be great to see again on TV. These two guys are brilliant. Jonathan Gresham with the new character has been amazing. Very early on in this new character as well, but he's certainly left a mark or left some ink on a lot of people so far. But he is great. I want to see more of this new character Gresham. I certainly want to see more against Sami Callihan. Hopefully we're going to get that maybe against all odds. I don't think it's official or anything like that just yet, but that would be great to see another Callihan. I mean, Sami Callihan is so underrated as well. He's got a great mind for the business, and he's also got great in-ring ability. And I won't say it's very rare nowadays, but was very rare that you had a blend, people that can do it all. You know, you said sometimes had people better in the ring than on the mic, and sometimes people better on the mic or in the ring, or even sometimes people's character, just as their persona, not necessarily how they talk, but how they move and how they do their character and their mannerisms, would sometimes get them over perhaps their weaknesses. Perhaps they're not the strongest in the ring. But Sami Callihan epitomizes what I would class as the perfect wrestler. He's got a bit of everything about him. And him and Jonathan Gresham, I think, would work magic again if that was to happen. Now, last week, AJ Francis said that they would attack, you know, they would basically, First Class would tell you what title they're going for. And they did when they took out Laredo Kid. And AJ Francis was staking his claim for the Digital Media Championship. And on all occasions, TNA's 20th anniversary, AJ Francis beats Laredo Kid with the down payment to score the pinfall and become the new TNA Digital Media Champion. We have waxed lyrical about AJ Francis on here and about the development, about being on the screen every week. You're seeing more of him week in, week out. And the more that you see of him, the more that you believe in him, and the more that you can see he's actually a great worker. Right here, right now is a culmination of that as he becomes Digital Media Champion. And you have to congratulate AJ Francis. A lot of people gave him a lot of hate when he was elsewhere, but they didn't really see him enough to, you know, look at how good of a performer, how good of a worker he actually is. He's always been great on the mic. We know that. But the more that we're seeing him on TV, the more that he's showing everyone what he can do. And kudos to AJ Francis. I'm never, you know, listen, I wasn't his biggest fan in the past, but he is showing me a lot more. And this is what we're talking about, what TNA do well. When these guys come from other companies, they give them the opportunity on TV. They give them that chance to be on TV more and to develop their characters and to show everyone what they can do. And he has certainly done that in abundance since coming on. So kudos to AJ Francis, kudos to TNA, and congratulations for AJ Francis, the new TNA Digital Media Champion. Who is the first opponent going to be? Well, we could say Joe Hendry, perhaps. But Joe Hendry may be slightly busy at the moment. We'll get into that in a minute. The main event now, we said earlier on, Nic Nemeth, Frankie Kazarian. Frankie Kazarian promised to eliminate Nic Nemeth in return for a title shot at Moose, should Moose be successful against Matt Hardy, which they agreed to. And you know what? This was two veterans of the business that know how to tell a story, know how to work a crowd, know how to work a main event match. And it was exactly that with Kazarian and Nic Nemeth. This was a brilliant TV style main event fitting of the 20th anniversary of TNA. But Frankie Kazarian didn't hold his end of the bargain up. No, sir. Nic Nemeth hits him with the danger zone to beat Frankie Kazarian. So we assume now that that title shot that he was promised is out the window. But the system wasn't finished on TNA. They come out, they laid out Nick, they laid out Ryan Nemeth, who come out as well. And then the familiar song of Joe Hendry hit. He come out, he had a bit of a rally against the system initially, but he was also eventually taken out, and the system were holding the gold high. The screen went a bit fuzzy, as it does, and all of a sudden, Matt Hardy, or Broken Matt Hardy, appeared on the Tron. And with that, in the maniacal way that he does, he is invited the system to the Hardy compound next week on Impact. So ahead of this big match on Against All Odds, prior to that, the system looks as though they will be visiting the Hardy compound. I don't know. That seems to be quite a prologue for disaster for the system next week. That's taking them out of their comfort zone next week on TNA. The system going to the Hardy compound. I'm not sure that is a very wise move, but that was a very good 20th anniversary special of TNA Impact. Now, don't forget, now you can watch on the TNA app, you can watch Impact on Thursday night, 8 p.m. Eastern, 1 a.m. over here in the UK. You could also catch Against All Odds on the TNA Plus app as well next Friday. We will be reviewing Impact. We will be reviewing Against All Odds. We're very much looking forward to it. And once again, big congratulations to TNA for 20 years of Impact. Here's to the next 20. But you guys have been watching the TNA review on the Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast. And until we cross the line twice next week, everybody, buckle down and stay safe.